back, Byron Browne. Robert Durst likes a green pen. One of a number of eccentric things about Robert Durst that, frankly, are a bit mesmerizing. I mean, when you listen to him talk, you can't wait to see or hear what he's going to say next. And this jury in Galveston was mesmerized by him to the point of coming back with a not guilty verdict. What's to say an L.A. jury, who can be easily mesmerized, one would argue, wouldn't take him hook, line, and sinker and say, all right, yeah, I like this Robert fella.
Yeah, listening to him, listening to him there in that interview, the cadence in his voice, it is somewhat mesmerizing. And he is an older gentleman. I say that because a lot of older gentlemen are nice. That's somewhat of a stereotype of older gentlemen. And that's how he comes across. And I could see maybe the Galveston jury, if he turns it on just right, you know, that kind of Columbo sort of attitude about him. He's a little charismatic in a very weird way, but at the same time, I think he's smart. I think he's smart like a fox. I think he always knows what he's doing, and that kind of Columbo, that kind of, you know, I'm half here, half not sort of attitude could be somewhat endearing to some people, and so I could see why the Galveston jury. They obviously liked him. They found him somewhat likable because they believed him, and it resulted in a not guilty verdict. So you're right. An LA jury could do the same thing. Maybe that's something that his lawyers are concerned about, meaning maybe they thought that he was going to take the stand because he was so charismatic and he did so well in Galveston. But now, because of the health issues, maybe they think he won't present as well. And so maybe, even though that they've said he'll take the stand, maybe we see him not take the stand. It'll be interesting to see how this unfolds. And obviously, we still have to get past this evidentiary hearing later this morning as it relates to whether the trial will be delayed indefinitely and whether we'll even ever have an opportunity to take the stand. So this is very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. The hearing today, scheduled for 9 o'clock Pacific time, noon Eastern, is going to, if you're just joining us, address this defense issue. They want this to be indefinitely continued. The reason, Durst's physical well-being, his health. The other part of the equation here, and they have filed for a mistrial, and that was denied. They think that this jury, who's been on the sidelines now for 14 months, this jury, it was very painful to select this jury. They brought him in. And they heard opening statements, which lasted 4 days, and then 2 days of testimony. The judge says, all right, COVID, we're going to put a halt here. 14 months later, they bring back the same jurors. What's your take on what this jury pool is going to tell the judge? Because that will happen next today, presumably, if the judge says, no, we're not going to continue. What do you think over the last 14 months these jurors have done in terms of researching this case? Do you think there's a chance to salvage this group?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, that's a $64,000 question. In my almost 20 years of being a lawyer, I've never faced an issue like this, meaning a jury gets impaneled, meaning they've moved through the voir dire part of it, which would be the part where the judge and lawyers question the jurors about whether there's any prejudices or biases that would prevent them from being a good jury. They hear opening statements. And then we got this pandemic that hit, and we had 14 months of nothing, really nothing, no one even working. I mean, it's a very strange time. And if I was one of those lawyers on the defense or the prosecution, I would worry about those jurors, the composition of the jurors, specifically, you know, where's their heads at? Over this past 14 months, a lot of things have happened. A lot of big social movements have occurred in America. We have a presidency that was decided that was very controversial. We have a lot of things that happened that could possibly change and shape the minds of these jurors that were impaneled. And if I was a juror trying this case, I would want to pick a whole new panel of jurors because I just don't know where these jurors' heads are at now after this pandemic in 14 months. What have they researched? What have they watched on TV? If anything, everybody's watched TV excessively for 14 months. So that would be my concern. I would want a whole new jury impaneled.
Yeah, and that's what the defense wants, but at this point that motion was denied, and the plan is we're going to move forward. We're going to move forward with this group that was impaneled 14 months ago, but again, we're going to see it all play out right here on Core TV starting at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.